Planning and Zoning Commission meeting for Wednesday, April 16th, 7 p.m. for the Village of Lake Zurich. And the first item this evening is going to be our roll call. So Colleen, if you would do that, please.
Commissioner Castillo.
Present.
Commissioner Giannini is absent. Commissioner Gloaz.
Present.
Commissioner Kovacevic.
Present.
Commissioner Morrison.
Present.
Commissioner Muir is absent and excused. Commissioner Schultz.
Present.
Chairman Stratman.
Here. Let the record reflect, Colleen, that we do have a quorum for this evening's meeting. And first item on the agenda will be the approval of the minutes from the March 19th, 2025 meeting. So if commissioners have any comments or corrections to the minutes as presented? Hearing none, I would then entertain a motion to approve the March 19th, 2025 PZC minutes as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Good, thank you. Call the roll, please, or call it, if you would.
Commissioner Castillo.
Aye.
Commissioner Gloaz.
Abstain.
Commissioner Kovacevic.
Aye.
Commissioner Morrison.
Aye.
Commissioner Schultz.
Abstain.
Chairman Stratman.
Aye. So the minutes are approved as submitted to us this evening. And then next time on our agenda would be a public meeting, which there is none this evening. So we'll move to our public hearings. And we're going to make a change to the agenda as submitted. And that is that we have two items on the agenda. And we're just going to switch the order because we think that it'll be to the advantage of the petitioner. So, but we'll open the public hearing for the following applications. Application PZC 2025-03 for a variation of the front and side yard setback to allow for the construction of outside steps along the house on the property at 287 Sunrise Lane. This item was continued from the March 19, 2025 meeting. The next item is application PZC 2025-05 for a variation to allow for the construction of an in-ground swimming pool within the side yard on the property at 202 Mark Lane. This is a new application for this evening.
So moved.
Yielding?
Second.
Thank you, John. Call the roll, please. Colleen.
Commissioner Castillo.
Aye.
Commissioner Gloaz.
Aye.
Commissioner Kovacevic.
Aye.
Commissioner Morrison.
Aye.
Commissioner Schultz.
Aye.
Chairman Stratman.
Aye. So those wishing to speak at the public hearings this evening now will be sworn in. Please raise your right hand while I read a statement to swear you in. Thank you. Do you swear the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Good, thank you. When you come up to the podium, please sign in on the sheet at the podium, and at the beginning of your statement, please state your name, spelling it out if necessary, and state your address for the record. All comments will be addressed to the PZC chair. Any members of the public wishing to comment will be invited one by one to the podium to provide their comment. The chairperson may limit repetitious or inappropriate comments and impose reasonable time limits in accordance with the rules of the PZC. The applicant will be given the opportunity to present their application. After the applicant's presentation, the PZC members will be able to ask questions one by one of the applicants, and discussion can occur. After the PZC questions have been addressed, public testimony will be received, and the PZC commissioner comments or additional questions can ensue. After all persons are given the opportunity to speak, the hearing will be closed or continued, and the PZC will move into deliberation. The applicant may be given the opportunity to respond to questions posed by either the members of the PZC or village staff during deliberation. However, no more formal testimony will be taken after the hearing is closed unless the chair decides otherwise. So, once all deliberation has ended, the PZC will vote on a recommendation to the village board on the matters. So, as we said, we're going to switch things, so we'll go to the item on the agenda which was listed as B, and that's going to be application item 4B, application PZC 2025 for a variation at 202 Mark Lane. This is an application for a variation to allow for the construction of an in-ground swimming pool within the side yard on the property within the R4 Single Family Residential District. Staff, can you confirm that the proper notice was provided on this item?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
And can you introduce the applicant?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good evening. This evening, for this item at 202 Mark Lane, we do have the property owner, Mr. John Joswiak, here to present his request for a variation for the pool within the side yard. Mr. Joswiak, if you would like to come to the mic, state your name and your address, please.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman. Good evening, all boards and village staff. My name is John Joswiak, Jozwiak, and my first name spelled Jan. I live in 30 Briarwoods in Lake Zurich. I'm a resident for 44 years of Lake Zurich. I'm the builder for 40 years in Lake Zurich and the area for 40 years. We basically built beautiful homes, not only build the homes, but also build relationship between the owners and the builders and neighbors. We try to provide the best product for the people because that's our friends. We see in church, we see in Costco, we see in store, everywhere. So we got a beautiful property that's 202 Mark Lane. That's the biggest lot in the subdivision, but that's unique because the cul-de-sac. And as soon we located the house and everything, we don't have enough to back on the back to have a setback, but we have a lot of properties on the side. So we like to build that swimming pool on the side, and that was probably almost quarter-acre land there, you know. So we provide proposal screening, fence, talking with the neighbors, with everybody. Everybody agree. Everybody don't have an objection. So that's what we're here to have you approve, please.
Okay. Well, Mr. Joswiak, as we often do in the meetings, we point out that the staff provides us the report for the item for us to consider. And what they do for us is they provide us, in their report, they provide us color combinations. So if their comments are in green, that means things are good. If there's anything in yellow, that means it's a caution. Anything in red, that means there's an issue. In this instance, there's a little bit of yellow in their comments, but in taking those in consideration, as staff has done, they've pointed out to us what they feel is a caution, but even as a caution, they also point out that the staff still recommends that we grant the recommendation to the village board on this item. And it's, the reason being because the lot configuration just doesn't allow for it. Even though we have, as you point out, quite a large lot, it just doesn't allow for it to be there. Commissioners, you have comments about the item on our agenda this evening? This particular one? Mr.
Any
Cook?
comments?
Yeah. Questions?
I don't have a question. I do not have an issue with this particular request. We have in the past allowed other swimming pools, be they above ground, to encroach on the variance, or to encroach so that they needed a variance to do it. And, Sarosh, is there, because I didn't see it here in the packet, or maybe I just missed it, but the neighbors to the side have no objections to this, is that correct? Is that my understanding correct?
There is a letter in
Yeah.
your packet that says that the neighbors have no
Right.
objection.
And even with one of the comments that came from staff that says basically, though something else could be done, it doesn't really hinder or impact it negatively in the way it is. I mean, you could always make this pool a lot smaller than 15 by 30, but I think that defeats the purpose of having a pool, especially an in-ground pool, if it's going to be that much smaller. So again, from the standpoint of what is here, plus knowing this petitioner and the work that he has done in the village, it's always been good quality work. And so, you know, from that standpoint, I have no objection in going forward and granting this variance.
All right, thank you. Sean?
No questions, no comments.
All right. Yoli?
I guess my only question, is, there's no picture or rendering of the pool. You know, since it's on the side of the house, it's gonna obviously be seen from the street. It's also gonna be seen by the neighbors across the way. Yeah, this doesn't. I wanna see an actual pool. I mean,
That's what you'll see,
okay.
because the
Well,
pool will be
but if there's a
screened.
slide, I mean, if they put a slide, I don't know what else is gonna be there.
I can answer that, please?
Sure, absolutely.
Okay. We basically have I say before, we have that very unique lot. And I'd have a lookout basement, so they basically slope it down. And as soon as we put a fence and a screening, you basically not even know there was pool there, okay? Because that's the height of the ground level, you know, there was sloping, you know, and that's on the back of the property, there was a lower level. So if you're driving on the street, you never know anything. Yeah.
You're not
So
gonna
the-
see anything
yeah.
there.
So,
Yeah, no, the only thing I would be concerned about is, for example, a slide, because a slide is gonna be high up.
So we basically, I make it that's a little bigger screen here, so just to make sure, so that will be covered.
Okay,
That's even
and
better.
there's trees,
That's
yeah.
a better depiction.
That's a better depiction, yeah. Okay. All right, that was my only real question. Thank you.
We'll skip Joe for a minute while he gets up, and Scott?
No, I don't think I have any questions. One comment to that Hildy too was, or Hildy, sorry. By looking at the topo that was included in here, that approximately the edge of the pool would be about 4 feet below where the ground
The
was
front
in that
is-
first
okay.
photo. That's
Okay.
just by counting the topo lines. That's really the only thing I had.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Lon?
Yeah, no concerns.
Thank you.
Joe? We're talking about the setback for the.
I'm gonna abstain on
Okay,
that.
all right. The only issue is, and I understand that, you complete this to the new owner. Does he know that with it being, if we give a recommendation for the variance, that it has to be open to all the residents? The pool? Yeah.
Out here, he know everything.
Oh, okay.
And the plan commission.
Everybody has to wear swimsuits?
man.
Understood, understood.
All right. Restrictions, always
So-
restrictions.
No other comments or questions? Ready to move to deliberation on this
Sure.
item? Okay. Thank you, Mr. Joseph.
Thank you.
In that case, I would entertain a motion to close the public hearing on application PZC 2025-05 and move to deliberation.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Call the roll, please, Colleen.
Commissioner Castillo,
Aye.
Commissioner Giannini,
Aye.
Commissioner Gloaz,
Aye.
Commissioner Kovacevic,
Aye.
Commissioner Morrison,
Aye.
Commissioner Schultz,
Aye.
Chairman Stratman.
Aye. Any further comments? And just for the record, that is not a condition of the recommendation going forward. I figured we better clear that up, just in
Yeah.
case someone's listening. You'd hate to have a bunch of people show up. All right.
Just for record, I'm probably just going to abstain.
I was
just
gonna
because
recommend
of
that,
walking
yes.
in late
Thank you.
on this
Mhm.
one.
Okay, thanks, Joe. Okay, on application PZC 2025-05, I will entertain a motion to receive into the public record the staff review of compliance of this application with the zoning standards as presented by staff, and to receive the testimony presented by the applicant, by the PZC members, and by village staff at tonight's public hearing, and make these standards and testimony a part of the official record for the application and findings of the PZC, and to recommend that the village board approve the application for a variation to allow for the construction of an in-ground pool within the side yard of the property within the R4 single-family residential district.
So moved.
Gildy?
Second.
Thanks, Sean. Call the roll, please, Colleen.
Commissioner Castillo,
Aye.
Commissioner Giannini,
Abstain.
Commissioner Glowaz,
Aye.
Commissioner Kovacevic,
Aye.
Commissioner Morrison,
Aye.
Commissioner Schultz,
Aye.
Chairman Stratman.
Aye. So the vote is unanimous for the recommendation for this to go to the village board for the approval of the variance. And it will be on the meeting of, do we know the date?
We don't know the date exactly, but we will advise the applicant of the date.
All right, very good.
Thank you.
Thank you and good luck. Okay, now we move to agenda item 4A, which is application BCC 2025 for a variation at 287 Sunrise Lane. This is an application for a variation of the side yard setback to allow for the construction of outside steps along the side of the house on the property within the R5 Single Family Residential District. Staff, can you confirm the proper notice was provided to this item?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. And can you introduce the applicant for us, please?
Yes, this evening we have the owner, Mr. Lou Sita, here to make a presentation and a request for his variation.
Okay,
Good
Go
evening.
ahead.
good evening.
So, my wife, Jerry, and myself, let me spell my name. So Louis, or I go by Lou, last name Sita, S-I-T-A, and this is for 287 Sunrise Lane. So, also supporting us is our builder and construction manager for the project, Butch Holtz, who's also here. Butch, you can speak up if necessary. So let me just give a little background on ourselves and why we're here. So we are here presenting the variance for the landscape steps. Just a little bit of background on ourselves. My wife and I are long-term residents of Lake County. We've been here for 40 years. I'm a long-term employee of Abbott Laboratories and AbbVie, the spinoff, so 40 years. I'm an engineer by background, chemical engineer by background, and retired as Vice President of Engineering for the company. My wife and I have 4 kids and 12 grandkids, all live within 5 to 10 minutes of here. So we were always looking for lake properties that we could enjoy with our children and extended family. So we embarked on a multi-year search for lake property and looked everywhere in Lake County and in southern Wisconsin, and really couldn't find what we wanted to go with. And then through association with Butch, found this property, and we closed on that property. We bought that from Mr. Mark Albert, who's also here supporting the application. So we purchased that property in July of '22. And then just to give a little bit of timetable on the construction, so we then proceeded with building plans and blueprints, and put those together, submitted that to the village, and then received the approval to proceed with construction January of '23. We broke ground in February of '23. The village did request that as part of the construction that we upgrade the seawalls because they were in fairly bad shape. So we undertook that. We did the seawall on the north part of our property and got that done as we were breaking ground. The south seawall is more challenging. So we have part of the property is on the other side of the cove. We didn't have access to that part of the property by land, so we had to find a contractor that would do it through the lake on a barge. Took a while to get that done, and we did finally get that new seawall put in July of '24. And I really just bring that up because as part of the process we've gone through, not only have we invested in the home that we've built there, and I'm going to show a couple of pictures, but also in, I think, beautifying the shoreline to make it look more attractive than it was, and hopefully people's property values went up in the neighborhood. So during construction, we noticed and that's really when we became aware of the need to have some landscape steps. There's quite an elevation change from Sunrise Lane down to the lake. There's about 9 feet of elevation change. And that's really when we became aware that we're going to have to put in some sort of landscape stones or steps. We talked with our landscape supplier. We ended up talking to 2 or 3 folks and ended up going with Ringers, who came up with a nice solution for us and put in landscape steps, which I'll show some pictures of. And that was done in October of '24. We then incorporated that change into as-built drawings and submitted that to the village just before the holidays. They came back to us in early January with, and really alerting us that we were going to need a variance for those steps. And that's really why we're here today. So basically, the justification for the variance that we've put in is really to have a safe passageway and be able to walk easily from the front part of our property down to the lakefront. The steps are completely within our property line, so it's not outside of our property, it is within our property. Our adjacent neighbor is Mark Albert. On that side of it is in accordance with that request and has provided a letter and signed a letter, which I think is in the packet of the committee, endorsing that and supporting that request. And also there are, also one of the things that we noticed is also that neighbors in the area also have steps. So it's not an uncommon solution to have steps and a retaining wall if needed to go down to the lower area. So I'm going to maybe show some pictures here if I can of, let me see.
The back room will bring it onto the screen. There you go.
There we go. So that's the front of the house, as you can see from Sunrise Lane, just to give a perspective of the front. Okay. That's taken from our dock, which is in the cove there, and you can see the seawall that's been put in on the north part of the property. Then these are the steps that we put in, or the Ringers put in, our landscape supplier put in, and you can see they did a nice job, illuminated them so they are safe, because it can get quite slippery to go down that area. So that was done, and that's really what we're here for. I have a couple of other pictures I wanted to show. So this is our neighbor, Mark Albert's property also has landscape stones that go down from the street down to the lower level. So you can see it's a common solution. And then also on the other side, our neighbor on the other side also has steps that take it from that level down lower to property. So basically, that's really what I wanted to show. In closing, the village has granted us occupancy, so we're in the process of moving into the house. We're trying to get the variance resolved on the steps on the outside. I did want to thank Sarosh and Colleen for their help. They guided us a lot in this process. We weren't really aware of what to do, and thank you for your help, guys. They also came out and took a look at what we had installed and how we did it, and also our property and the neighbor's property. So that's pretty much what I wanted to show.
Thank you, Mr. Seated.
Yes.
As we mentioned in the earlier applicant, we mentioned how the staff reviews things
Yes.
with the green font for good, yellow if caution, red if there's an issue, and unfortunately yours has red.
Uh-huh.
And you made the comment that the steps are entirely within the boundary of your property, but that doesn't represent what the code requires. There has to be a yard setback, so much to the side yard. And that's why, even though they're within your property limits, that doesn't meet the issue, and that's why you're here this evening.
That's correct.
But, Soros, can you give, for the benefit of the commission, some of the background, some of the issues that have already been resolved with the applicant, and this is being what's left open?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. So in November, when we conducted our first inspection of the constructed work, we noted, first of all, that the steps were constructed that were not on the approved plans. We also noted that the driveway on the west side of the property had been expanded into the setback and was being supported by a retaining wall that was approximately 2.5 feet in height. We also noticed that after calculating the width of the expanded driveway, that the total impermeable surface exceeded what was required by our code. Our code requires that there be at least 40% of the property left as landscaped area. This actually reduced that amount. Minimum required landscaped area is 60% of the lot. It was reduced by a certain amount. And so in discussion with the property owners, they've agreed to move the driveway out of the setback and reinstate that area as a grassy green space. They've also agreed to take out some portion of the driveway on the east side as well, to help with meeting that minimum landscape surface requirement. And in the middle of the driveway as well, where there's a separation between the ways to the garage, there is a section right in the middle of the driveway that will be removed and reinstated with landscaped areas. Upon calculation of that, we found that that met the requirements of the code. As far as the retaining walls go, retaining walls are considered under walls and fences. And if a retaining wall is less than, if a retaining wall, first of all, located in the side yard is less than the minimum required height of, or rather the maximum required height of 5 feet, which in this case it is, it may remain. The retaining wall on the east side does encroach very slightly into the setback, but the portion that encroaches into the setback is less than 5 feet in height, so that is no longer an issue. As mitigation for this particular request for a variation, the applicant has also agreed to put a fence along the west side of the property, along the west lot line, in order to screen portions of the house and some of the mechanical units that are located on the side of the house. Mechanical units are considered accessory structures which are traditional and customary to the construction of a home and thereby allowed in the location where they are. But as a further step, the applicant has agreed to screen those with a 5-foot-high wooden fence.
That's great.
And I think that is pretty much it.
Okay. The one thing that, you know, in looking at this, and these items have come up to us before, is we as a commission have an issue. I know that you mentioned that you work closely with staff, and that was good. I think had you been more open in your discussions with them earlier, we wouldn't be at our meeting point here this evening, because as you mentioned, the grade difference from the front to where you need to be, there had to be some means of getting down there and doing it safely. So there had to be some means of egress on that side. So even though the plans didn't depict that, there had to be some consideration given for that at the time. So it got constructed, you know, and so now we're looking at this issue. And this raised an issue, at least for me as the chairman of the commission, that we need to put a tool in the toolbox for staff, so when we see these kind of things, that it can serve as a deterrent, that people need to be more aware of what these issues need to be before they come to us. And so what I would like to ask staff to do for us going forward is to check with local municipalities in our area and see what they do when they're presented with, not the issue about asking for a variance, but when we see things that appear like this, that are requiring the variance, that we shouldn't have gotten to this point without having that discussion. And so it sort of happened, and now we're after the fact. So we want to see what we can do in the future going forward to have staff have an ability to help control that and work with that, and something that can then be done. So if we would like to ask staff to do that for us, please.
Yes, we can certainly look at what other municipalities do when they come across work that was constructed without a permit, in particular when there is other ongoing construction going on the site, and which is similar to the context of what we are discussing this evening. Typically, there are two options. You either go right ahead and have them rectify it or fine them, or work with them to bring them into compliance. So we're going to look at what other municipalities do to see what generally is the, I would say, the manner in which they work with their applicants.
All right, thank you for that. And then go to commission for, Antonio, we'll start with you for comments.
Well, thank you, Mr. Sita, for your comments. So I have a lot of comments about this, and basically, they basically deal with a lot of what our chair, Mr. Stratman, had to say. And for me, seems to be a case of, let me not ask for permission, but let me ask for forgiveness. And this is something that many people in our village have attempted in the past, and some we catch, some we don't catch, thus where we're at today. And I do appreciate the fact that when you mentioned Mr. Albert having the steps and a lot of your neighbors having the steps, those steps go back many, many, many years. Some may be grandfathered for a lot longer than yours. Yours is brand new construction. So when a project comes before me as a commissioner, as the co-chair, I want to see everything that is related to that particular item. When surprises come, they're not readily accepted, at least not by me. And fortunately, you know, I spent the whole day today at Kirkland and Ellis downtown with a bunch of litigating lawyers, so bear with me as I go through this. Having the steps there isn't the issue. It is, again, doing it before you were given permission to do it, or even bring it before us. Because our track record is pretty much that almost all variances, if they seem logical, get passed. That's the premise. And what I have here is something that could set a precedence going forward about anybody coming all of a sudden and saying, hey, you know what? I made a mistake. Can we rectify it? Thus, the two items, or the two suggestions that you had made, Sarosh, which is either fine or, there have been cases, going back, where somebody built a non-conforming deck or other stairs, and they've been told, tear it down, take it away. Now, is that what is reasonable here? I can't say that. I'm not the only one that's up here speaking. But what I can say is that when something comes up before us that's non-conforming, for me, it's the same thing as when we get a larger project and I don't see samples of what's going to be going up. A building, I want to see the brick. I want to see the facade. I want to see everything so that when it goes up, I don't have any surprises. I don't like surprises. I don't think any of us like surprises. And this is one of those. I think that based on the renditions I've seen in the packet and the pictures you put up, your home looks great. It's fabulous. There's no doubt about it. The stairs themselves are fabulous to have. It's just a matter of following with the process and the procedures that are in play. And by me putting this on the record, it basically says to anybody else who's going to come up, don't go in this direction. Come before us. As I said, almost 95, if not more, percentage of variances that are asked of us, especially with these type, they get put through, especially when neighbors say, hey, you know what? We don't have a problem in that. Mm-hmm. Is it logical to have these steps? Yes, it is very logical. Otherwise, you're going to slip going all the way down. So for me, those are the comments that I have. I'm going to defer to Sarosh to say, what is it that we can look at, the two items that you said to Orlando you'd be looking into? And then at that point, it is a matter of going back to you, Mr. Sita, and saying, okay, here's what, because this is going to go from us to the Board of Trustees, correct?
Yes, it is.
All right, so if that can be resolved in this, before this goes to the Board of Trustees, then at least they will hear, hey, look, we had this issue. This is what the resolution will be, and then they can go yay or nay or whatever they want to do, all right? Because we're just the recommending body at this level. But I just wanted you to know that we are aware, we do read these things, we take it very serious, because yours is a home, but this can also happen if it's a business, that somebody comes in and says, hey, all of a sudden I decided at the last thing I'm gonna change this. And the thing that kind of, is that it isn't the only non-conforming, as Sarosh, you mentioned, it also deals with the driveway. That it was after the fact that it was then caught, you're gonna go through the changes that are there. I would argue, again, not knowing, that if that maybe had come before us again for a variance, it could have been put into play in a more positive way for you to say, okay, it's not a major issue, because we're all about having as much green as we can in this village. We went to a point years ago where we wanted to have a lot less asphalt so that we could have better air quality and eliminate a lot of the heat that's there, okay? And driveways are notorious for that. So this is where I'm at, and that's why I just wanted these comments on the record. But if we go in that direction, then I'd be satisfied to proceed as to what I would do under those conditions.
Can I make, excuse me, can I make a statement? Did you want to say something?
Can I make a comment on what you both are talking about?
Were you sworn in? I'm sorry.
Yeah, he was.
Okay, please come up.
Again, please state your name and address.
I'm Butch Holtz, pertaining to 287 Sunrise. I'm the general contractor for the CETAs. I hear what you're saying, and I agree 100% with what you're saying, but I can just tell you that these steps, first of all, the driveway was only a binder. And it was only a binder for the fact that we knew we had to submit an as-built before any approval gets approved, before we get CO. So I told the CETAs throughout the instruction, let's just do the binder, because I didn't know what the exact impervious was. I knew we were close, and I think it was only like 2% we were off. And I knew we may have to make adjustments on the driveway. So that's why we just did the binder, knowing that we might have to make adjustments once we submitted the as-built drawings. Also with the steps, I never intended to do something or advise the CETAs to install this without approval, so to speak. I did the same scenario at a job, like you're asking what you can do in Northbrook. They require a landscape plan, which showed the steps. The Village of Lake Zurich didn't require a landscape plan, so that's why I just assumed that it's part of landscape, because they are just landscape steps. It's not a concrete structure that we poured. They can, be removed. Wasn't cheap, so that's why it was done. There was no intent to try to hide, because I knew we would always have to go on the as-built. You guys would see it prior to any approval, prior to any occupancy. So I just wanted to make sure that you understood that we just didn't do it just to do it and try to get away with something.
And I appreciate that.
So-
As you indicated, you assumed something, and we already know what that means. You assume.
Well,
I understand.
Yeah,
I
but
get it.
I take it as landscaping.
I understand. I didn't say it was malicious.
Right.
I'm simply saying, when we build something, and as Mr. Sita said, this was a home that he looked for a very, very long time on a lake. If I am investing that kind of money, I'm going to be asking every question possible so nothing comes back to bite me in the butt, especially with a home that I'm assuming at this level, it's going to be more of a forever home, especially with the number of kids and grandkids you have on the lake. So for me, I'm going to side on the side of error so that I don't have that coming in to bite me in the butt. I'm going to be asking as many questions as I can. And all it takes is phone calls to the village and bang, 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 bang. I don't disagree with you. Sometimes, and we're no different, things are so loosey that you kinda, Again, I'm not inferring that it was malicious at all. I'm simply saying we need to take the time, and it's more for those who come behind you, to say, ask the questions, because otherwise we're going to be right here.
Right, with structure, because I do take pride, I am BOCA certified, and I take pride in knowing the codes, and I honestly didn't know that that was a code that you had to be, because usually on a building setback, it's building. It has nothing to do with retaining walls. But for some reason, I was made aware when they reviewed the as-built that this was different. I tried to really look up that code because, take pride in knowing the codes.
And and like I said, I appreciate that, I really do. We've had other issues here in the village regarding windows and what Renewal by Anderson puts in versus Pella versus Marvin versus a lot of things that you would say, oh my God, how ridiculous. But I'm just saying, it becomes this issue that says, okay, we're holding up the windows going in for months until we resolve this. I know, because I was part of one of those, and something had to be rewritten. So I'm only suggesting.
I know, I'm just saying
That's
there was
all.
no.
And I
issue
appreciate it.
had
No,
this, that's all.
again, not taking it in that direction.
All right.
So, but on the issue of the side yard that you're familiar with, the driveway that's going to come out, was that also just a binder that
Yeah,
encroached
it's
into the
just a
side yard?
binder because the driveway, where they put the retaining wall was in first. So they poured the asphalt, said, well, let's put it up there because I know we're pretty close. We're just doing a binder if we have to tear it out. It really isn't that big of a deal because it's only 1.5 inch surface that we have to remove.
Right. Well, but it's not just an issue about the open area, but it's also the fact that the driveway now is encroaching into the side yard setback.
But it was also on the approved plans, portions of it too, you know. But it, again, it doesn't meet the impervious, so I knew we'd have to restructure something if it didn't. I mean, like I said, we were pretty close on the impervious. I knew, once you did the as-built, we're gonna see where we're at with it.
Just to clarify, the encroaching portion of the driveway was not on the approved plans. We discovered that during the as-built review and the inspection that was conducted in November of last year.
So, okay. All right. Sean?
Yeah, I don't have a ton new here. To reiterate comments made, the variance isn't the issue. We've seen, I mean, I'm more of a junior board member here, not been here a few years now. Seen a ton of variances. I think we've approved all of them. And so the variance is not the issue here. It's that we're seeing it after it's been built, right? And so don't want to harp on that point, but I think it's important to make. If this came before this board, before it was built, I think a completely different discussion here. And really what we're taking into consideration here is not wanting to set a precedent for people to continue to say, yep, I'm sorry, I missed it, the code, and we built it in the best of intentions, and here we are, and could you just approve it now? And so I do appreciate the explanation, and I don't believe it was malicious, but that is the concern kind of going forward here, but no other comments.
All right, thanks, Sean. Ildy?
You know, I kind of mirror a lot of what these two gentlemen have already said, but I guess my question is, let's say this had been raised and brought before you guys to look at, what would it have looked like? What would have been done at the side of the house? Or would it have been, you just have to walk down the grass and kind of do what you need to do? Or would steps have been allowed, just narrow? I mean, what would have been done had this followed all the steps?
Yes. If we had looked at this at the early design stage, we would have been looking at simply a paper drawing without any construction in the field. A paper drawing essentially is something we review, we make comments on, and applicants then take those comments, address them by modifying the design. In this particular case, we would have made it known to them that steps are not allowed in the side yard within properties in the Lake Protection District, even though in other areas of the village, they are allowed to encroach, but not within 3 feet of the side lot line. In this particular case, they're just not allowed in the Lake Protection District side yard of properties. We would have simply told them either modify the design of the house so that you can accommodate the steps outside of the setback, and it would have simply been a fact of modifying the drawings. We would have also asked them to maybe look at other options, whether there are other options of getting to the back from the front by maybe regrading the property. That may have been a little difficult in this particular case because it's not a very deep property and there is the lake itself, so you can't go further into the lake. So there would have been options that we could have had discussions with them and talked to them about arriving at a solution which simply complied with the codes rather than needing a further variation.
Right.
Thanks, Feroz.
Okay. I don't really have any other questions or comments at this point, I guess.
Mr. Giannini?
So the questions I have are on the storm sewer. Is
Mm-hmm.
that all village-owned storm sewer that goes?
Oh, that's a private, sewer.
Private-owned
Just needed to
storm
get
sewer?
it from the top, from the top of the, property to the back without creating undue, erosion within the overland drainage path.
Okay. It looks like it comes from the roadway there,
Oh,
like
okay.
it was connected to the roadway.
Mhm. If it does, then, it is a, storm sewer within the, swale, the overland drainage, so it'll probably be just a private sewer within an easement.
It's not coming from Sunrise?
I'll have to look at the plans.
That would be the only concern I have,
Okay.
is if it's somehow connected to the village.
If it is
Um,
connected to the village, we'll certainly take that into consideration because our Public Works has asked that the storm sewer be televised to make sure that it'll continue to take whatever flow of water that goes from the front to the back. Typically, we have these go through overland drainage on sites where you have a swale in between homes. In some cases, if there is a larger amount of water that could potentially cause erosion within the side yards of the property, we have property owners construct storm pipes that then go through the property and then drain into the lake. We did something very similar even at the sanctuary of Lake Zurich, where there are underground storms that daylight into open to sky swales, and they collect water from all over the property as well as from the extremities of the property.
Okay, yeah, I guess it, just looking at the survey, and it's hard to tell, this is like a scan copy.
Mhm.
But it does look like there's the storm sewer coming from
Okay.
the roadway, and then it travels to the lake.
Mhm.
And I don't know if that's the case or not, but to me, that would be public infrastructure that is within that setback. And that would be my only concern, is if that, and I understand that it is landscaping items, because the stones can be picked up and then put back in place if people do need to work on that storm sewer. But yeah, I imagine if Public Works is televising that it is public
Yes,
storm
maybe
sewer.
that's probably the reason, yes.
Okay.
Thanks
So
for the
that is
clarification.
another reason, that is for the setback. The reason we have that setback is so that utilities can be run at that property line. So that is the room that they have to work, is that setback. So when Mike Brown and the Public Works team takes a
Mhm.
look at that,
Yes.
if they're comfortable as far as working around the landscaping items, because they're the guys that are gonna have to replace the storm sewer. It does, typically they last 50 years. I don't know when this was installed, but at some point in time, that storm sewer could need replacement, right? And that will be, if it's public.
I'm looking at it right now, and you're right, it is public because it is collecting water off premises, and there is a pipe that also leads to it. So
Mhm.
it's not just a storm basin outside of the property, but also collects stormwater from further up Sunrise Lane. And so this would be a public utility within a easement on the property and was constructed as part of their home.
Mhm. So that would be typically, like, this would be something that, I think, I'd want to make sure Public Works understands and has,
We've consulted with them already, and the request for televising came from Public Works.
okay. Yeah, so that is, just so your awareness is, the code's there for a reason, to make sure that they've got the ability to work on the necessary infrastructure within the village.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks, Joel. Scott?
It's part of the part that sitting down here kind of sucks. You guys have already said
Yeah, I was
everything.
gonna say, you gotta start from that side next time.
And switch you around.
I really don't have anything further to comment on. No, that's it. I don't have anything else.
All right, thanks, Scott. Vlad?
Same kind of situation. I do understand that things move fast, sometimes construction, and it's not, I don't like professionally when I hear, I'm a structural engineer, when I hear people coming and asking me to sign off on something that was done not to plans. But I understand it moves fast. And sometimes things don't come up when you're trying to wrap things up. But that is a major concern for me that was not, that could have been handled before it was built.
Okay, all right, thank you.
I just like two clarifications. Oh, I'm sorry, there's somebody in the back who wants to say something.
Okay?
The option to speak once you're done with your
Thank you.
questioning.
Okay, so then I have two items. So piggybacking on what Joe said, until you have Mike Brown's crew take a look at this drain, there could be a point where he says, no, this isn't going to work. Is that correct?
It would depend on what the results of the
I
televising
understand,
yield, yes.
But the point is, it could either work or not work,
Yeah.
correct?
Correct.
So if it doesn't work, then those stairs have to be modified. Is that correct?
Or the storm sewer has to be relocated.
At
depending on
whose
which way.
cost?
At the owner's cost, yeah.
So that is something you understand, right, Mr. Sita? So then, that's number one. And number two, I want to make sure that Mr. Sita does understand that there is the possibility that there could be, if we were to approve a variance, that there is the possibility that there is a fine that could be attached to it. Is that correct?
Yes, that
Is
would
that
be.
something that you understand, Mr. Sita?
For the work that was done without the permit, the stairs.
I just wanted on the record that you understand both of those and that they are clarified, that you do understand them. Okay, good, I'm sorry.
And this would be based on the recommendation that the chairman has made for us to look at the options as to what other municipalities do.
Okay, then we have somebody in the back.
Okay. Mr. Chairman, if you want to open it up for public comment.
Public comment? Sir? I didn't notice, were you sworn in at the start of the meeting?
My name's Bob Warren.
Yeah, Bob? Were you
are.
sworn in at the start of the meeting?
Pardon me?
Did you get sworn in at the start of the
Yes,
meeting?
I did.
You did, okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Right. I'm 90 years old. I've
Congratulations.
lived on Sunrise Lane since 1962. My wife was a school teacher here until, God bless her, she's Alzheimer's. So I have a part in this community. Probably the person that was here said, oh, well, we've contacted the people. He's a damn liar. He never called me. He didn't call my neighbors. He didn't talk to anybody.
hold it.
So why could a guy stand
Okay,
here
watch your comments,
and,
please.
and tell you people, how many of you board members have been over to the house and looked at the house?
Which house?
Right?
Which
How
house?
come?
Wait, sir,
Right.
excuse me. Which agenda item are you speaking about?
I can't hear you because
Which agenda item are you speaking about?
it's the agenda.
I know, but are you talking about the house on Sunrise?
I'm talking about the house, the new house.
The new house?
Right.
Okay, the gentleman that spoke earlier that said he spoke to the neighbors?
Well, yeah,
That gentleman was
he
speaking,
did.
he was speaking about a project on the other side of
Okay.
town, unrelated to this.
Right. The name Mark Albert, he was here, he sits right here. 2.5 years, right? In my backyard on Sunrise Lane, nothing but big trucks, big equipment, all day long, coming in, going out. 2.5 years to build that house, right? I'm still there. Okay. But I was concerned that you guys didn't understand what a piece of paper says here, there, north, south, east, and west. I live up in 265 Sunrise. My neighbor is a single lady, 275. Mark owned the house at 285. And that property that the house has been built on was put in fill. Truckloads of fill because of the, underneath the ground. That's why he had to put the fence in, because to hold this water. There were so many blatant mistakes here. He put a lot of money in there, but where did he get the variances, right? I walked down the end of my street, and I looked down right between his house and his house. Surveyor stakes, okay? Just a month ago, okay? I saw the surveyor stake here. About 2 weeks later, it had moved over about 4 feet. Who moved the stake over? So we got 2 stakes. Where'd that second stake come from? From Mark Albert's side. Mark Albert sold that property, so he's moving the things that he wants to do. And the telephone pole, which is there, and that third, the third garage that he has, it comes down, he can't move the car. He has to move over to park it, to go in there. That in itself is a blatant disregard for the property and the neighbors. Here's the other thing. How many kids did he say he had, right? Maybe he's got 15, 20. We got 5 parking spots on a whole Sunrise Lane. So if my guest came in and his kids, his guests, where are they going to park, right? Yeah, they wanted to buy the lot behind me. They couldn't do it and didn't do it. And so my concern is he doesn't care. The owner doesn't care. This is honest to God truth. 3 years he's been here, right? This is the first time right there that I've seen him. One time, 2 years ago, he stopped, and I stopped. He drives the car. I introduced myself. That's the only time I've ever seen him. And I figured, well, now, where's he going to park? Yeah? Have a swimming pool here, 15 grandchildren. I know for a fact that he put a pontoon boat in that little inlet there, right? He doesn't own the inlet. My neighbor of 15 years, sitting right there, he owns the part on the other side. So he doesn't own that. What he doesn't know is that, and Mark knows it, we own the property in the Illinois Supreme Court. I was president of the Lake Association. So the Supreme Court, the dash hours where Sandy Point is, has that property. They also own 25 yards out. They tried to stop all of us here from going over their property. So I took them to the Supreme Court again, right? They came back and said, you cannot stop your neighbor from crossing, even though you own that property. So we won that part. And Bob's my friend. So I walk down there, and I'm concerned. Here, on that garage number 3, which is not in code, not even close. So here's a telephone pole, right? And beside the telephone pole, there's a hole about like this. And that telephone pole is leaning toward the house, of the lake, on a 45-degree angle, right? So, okay, didn't even fill up the hole by and Butch, he understands. He won't talk to me because I have more information than he does. And I have more information than he does. I was a marketing manager for a large corporation. He touched on it. And so here it is. We have a problem. The whole street is going to have a problem if that pole goes down or electricity, because he, on his driveway coming back, which was put in wrong, and it comes back, it stops right here. He can't back up because of Bob's property, right? So where's he going to go, and why? That property was Phil. When Ray Sent owned it, the property that he's on was Phil, and that's why he had problem. Ray Sent knew that. That property is next to Bob, and there's a foundation up closer to his house. I said, okay, how come it's not 7 feet, right, on his side? And Bob's, Knight, we for some reason, and he makes mistakes, and he's too smart. He makes absolutely mistakes. And I didn't believe him when he said, oh, I didn't understand to go to this. What? I personally question that. Butch, the contractor, argued with me because he wanted to park along my line, right? Well, the city said, no, you can't do that because you can't get a fire engine or an ambulance down there. If they park in front of Steve's place, you can't get anything because there. So they realized that they made a mistake, and that was solved on that part. I have to.
Mr. Warren, can I interrupt real quick? I think your phone is going off. If you would,
Pardon me?
your telephone may be going off.
Oh,
If you
that's-
want to turn off the ringer.
I'm sorry. It says stop. Every 2 hours, I have to have eye drops.
Okay.
I shut it down, but it didn't.
Okay, no, now you may continue.
So basically, he wanted to buy the lot behind me. Well, we fought the village and lost with this deli, which the zoning board, and this couple of years ago, allowed for the first time, when I was here, 3,300 people, for the first time, 23,000 buildings or population. And so a lot of things go on. But I look at all of these places, there is 14 feet from building, my 7, Steve's 7, right? We got a fence there. My place, that place, 7 feet. And when I moved here, it was 10 feet. And now it keeps going down because village wants more houses so they make more money. And that's the truth. I'm not lying. So people here, Rand Road, old Rand Road, across with all those new houses, do you understand that when the state came in and built the old Rand Road, they still, that property line, still own out into the lake. The Supreme Court said you can own, Texas law, you can own the water and you can own the land. So out in front of my house, out in front of, on the lake, correct? We all own a piece of the lake. And a lot of people don't take the time that this is an absolutely catastrophic situation. All of the troubles that we've had, and nobody gave a damn because we went up to the zoning board many, many times. Oh, who's the code inspector, right? Didn't somebody come down and say, hey, that's not 7 feet? No, nobody came down. Now, why are we so upset? And that's the reason. The people did not know.
Mr. Warren,
Yeah.
I'm going to have to interrupt you here. You've had the microphone for quite a bit, and I think there's others that want to speak.
I'm done.
Oh, okay, well,
Yeah,
thank you for your comment.
I'm hearing, I have a hearing aid from the service,
Mm-hmm.
and it's kind of strange. So thank you very much for putting up with
Okay.
with what
Thank you,
I
Mr. Warren.
understand.
Thank you.
So Bob's got some things he wants to
right.
say. Bob,
Okay.
Bobby.
Someone,
Yeah. But
someone, okay.
he's the one. The property, he would like to steal from it. That's basically what it is. He squeezed his property. So we should not ever let somebody do that.
No.
Mark, His family owns the apartments right there. Yeah, they can't park there. And yet, his family pulls out on weekends and parks and takes up one spot, even though he's got the apartment in a place to sit. 4 days ago, he took his garbage down. The reason I say this is because he's a difficult man to deal with, and the contractor. They took the old garbage place, right? It had a door on it. Oh, no, they came in, put a new one in, didn't put door on. So my dining room is looking right at his garbage.
All right, well, Mr. Warren, I'm gonna have to ask.
I'll be very honest with you.
All right.
It's the information that I'd like to convey, and I'd like your time to hear the real story.
All right, well, thank you. I think we have, so thank you very much.
Here's Steve.
More public comments?
Hi, everybody. My name is Steve Stefanidis. I live at 255 Sunrise Lane, which is just 4 houses down from the property. Excuse me while I sign in real quick. So,
Okay, thank you.
just to let you know, Bob taught
Were
me to
you-
fish when I was
Steve,
4 years
I'm sorry,
old.
were you sworn in?
He was my neighbor there, so,
Were you sworn in?
yes, I lifted my hand, yeah.
Thank
so.
you.
And I recently retired and moved back to the family home. We bought it in '59, belonged to my folks. I bought out my sister and moved back in. I was involved in the deli debacle, and I've never.
We did that one by Zoom, if you remember.
Right, that was COVID. So, and all I wanted to say is I moved back into Mom's house, and there were problems with the concrete steps going out from the breezeway down. The driveway was broken up, and I applied for permits and got those approved. When I moved in, there was a pre-existing pier with a boat lift on the right side of my property, which would be the south side. And I had to get a bigger boat lift to higher capacity, and immediately went to Bob and talked to him about it. And he said that that boat lift did not have the 5-foot easement, even though it's 30 feet out into the water, and that he would prefer that I not put a new one in there. So I put it on the other side. Wanted to put a fence up on the north side of my property, which belongs to my neighbors who are in the room. And the first thing I did is I went and talked to them before I applied for the permits, told them I was thinking about putting a fence up, said it would be similar to the fence on Bob's side, that of course it would meet all the requirements of height and type of fence. And I had another survey done, and we found out that there was some of their pine trees would have had to been removed if I put that fence on the property line. So I pulled it back, right? Because we're neighbors, and there aren't many of us there, and we've lived there for a long time. And so then I got the permits approved for the concrete step replacement, and halfway through, the inspector came out, and he said, we have a problem here because the downspout from my breezeway, which is elevated at street level, has a pop-up trap that is not the proper easement from my neighbor's lot line, and I'd have to move that. And I talked to the inspector, and I said, well, the fence is not my lot line because I moved it back so that the neighbors wouldn't have to chop down their trees. I'm just saying that the city seems to be very concerned about adherence to the permit requirements, the zoning requirements, and we protect that property because it's a small community, and we're on the lake, and we love the lake, and we love the village, and it just seems that a little bit more communication would have probably solved some of these problems. I'm not specifically against, because I don't live next door to the new house. I'm just saying that as somebody that loves this village and have lived here since I was 2 years old, that a little bit of better communication, it's something that, upsets Bob because he sees the telephone or the power line leaning down, and it's affected, obviously, our other neighbor, Bob, because there's encroachment, and I just think that, as Sarosh was saying, better communication. I don't see how the inspector that came out told me that my deck, which is 20 years old, didn't have proper footings and needed to be redone. And I even did that, you know, because I want to make sure we're in compliance and that my neighbors are happy. And all I'm saying is that I'm here because I support my neighbors. It's a wonderful village to live in. You know, I don't think it's necessary to cause this kind of disruption in violation of ordinances, you know. So yeah, that's all I wanted to say. You know, I hope that, you know, Lou and his wife are welcome to the community and that we have a nice neighborhood relationship. It just seems that this was all conducted kind of poorly, you know. I'm just kind of surprised. I just think better communication with your neighbors and with the zoning board would have resolved a lot of this stuff, so.
Thank you,
I
Steve.
just wanted to voice that.
Yeah, and when that's sort of, as you commented, that was sort of the feeling of the commission and staff as well, that there was a breaking communication, so I appreciate you bringing that back to the attention. Thank you. Anyone else from the public wishing to speak this evening? Yes, ma'am. And were you sworn in? I was. Okay, good. So I don't have to swear at you again?
Larissa Clavens. I live at 245 Sunrise Lane, a few doors down. I was also part of the deli debacle, so that was an interesting experience to
Discussion.
go through.
The deli discussion.
Well, you were all in support on what we were trying to argue, but I don't have a lot to add. I think the first commissioner who spoke, Antonio, the phrase of is it better to ask for forgiveness and not permission? I think that's important. And there's codes and there's codes and building codes and building inspectors for good reasons. And my husband is a former contractor and builder and knows that you got to find the codes out, you know, every builder knows that. So I guess to me, I'm not going to add anything new except I agree with that we have to follow rules and it's important to do that. And I just wanted to reiterate kind of what the board has said, the commissioners have said and the neighbors have said, so.
All right, good. Thank you for your comments.
Sure.
Antonio?
So after hearing the comments, I don't disagree with anything that was said up here, including Bob. Better communication, again, that is what I was saying from the beginning. If certain things are looked into, questions are asked, then communication comes out. If it doesn't, then we're here every day. Also, just for clarification, correct me if I'm wrong, but our inspectors that go out there are not Lake Zurich inspectors, they're Lake County inspectors, is this correct?
Yes, our inspectors are from Lake County. The village contracts all its plan review and inspection service.
So many
for Lake-
years ago, Lake Zurich dissolved its inspectors and unified them with Lake County. So it's under Lake County auspices that inspections are done, and pretty much it's their regs. We have some input, but it's pretty much,
Actually, it's our regs, but they work under our direction.
okay, but it's still there.
Yes.
When they come out, when they don't. And that's also part of possibly being more communication between them and us. And again, as I said from the beginning, this is all about, I loved your comment about communication. I mean, that's really what it comes down to. So that's why I believe you've heard most of the board, if not all of us, saying the same thing. It's not an issue of the request, it's about when the request has been put into play. That's really what it comes down to. So that's what we're trying to make sure we are able to resolve tonight, sending it over to the Board of Trustees, and then making sure that in the future, anything that comes before us is addressed. When it comes down to things like telephone poles, parking in the street, I mean, any neighborhood in Lake Zurich, pretty much, when somebody has a party, it's almost impossible to either navigate with your car or find another parking spot. You know, if there are two parties adjacent to each other, it's total chaos. And I know that that's in almost every neighborhood. That's something that, it's gonna be what it's gonna be, just imagine if you lived in the city, it's even worse. So, but we do hear those things. I know I went to visit the property. I happened to be at Bella Luke's yesterday, so I happened to just run over there. So we do our due diligence as best as we can. Let me adhere you, let me tell you that again. We do our due diligence. We don't just get these documents and say, oh, yeah, we're just gonna show up today. And all of us have other jobs, have other things we're doing. I'm sure, Joe, you came from baseball. And so it is a matter that we devote our time to this, to a non-paying job. We do it the best way we can. We listen to people. We, as you know, the deli discussion went the way it went, which didn't go where it was supposed to go, and now it's gonna go in an area which is a lot better, right? So, regardless of what we push up, your comments, our comments, even if we push it up with approval, it doesn't mean the Board of Trustees are gonna listen to us and they went in that other direction. They just listen. It's putting everything together. It's that communication part of things. So that's the one thing I want to make sure you understand. That's what we're doing here. It's communicating. It's trying to make you, not me, because I don't live in that area, but you guys be good neighbors. I heard it a few times. Hopefully you all can be good neighbors. It's about what we can do to create Lake Zurich for what it is. And as we go forward with the new plan and everything else, I mean, for those of you who have seen us over the years, when other areas, whether it's Hawthorne Woods, whether it's Killdeer, whether it's Deer Park, whether it's North Barron, when they try to just dump into Lake Zurich, I'm one of the first ones that say, go dump it in your own backyard. Why? Because we are here, we live in this town, we've lived in this town since Ethel's was on Rand Road, and we want this to continue growing. We all win. So that's all I have to say on that.
All right, thank you, Antonio. Okay, commissioners, are we ready to move deliberation on this item? We've heard from the people, petitioner. Okay. Then I would entertain a motion to,
Okay, I'm sorry.
yep.
You will put those conditions that we talked, thank you.
Yes, that can come under deliberation.
I would entertain a motion to close the public hearing on application PZC 2025-03 and move to deliberation.
So moved.
Second.
Call the roll, please, Colleen.
Commissioner Castillo,
Aye.
Commissioner Giannini,
Aye.
Commissioner Gloaz,
Aye.
Commissioner Kovacevic,
Aye.
Commissioner Morrison,
Aye.
Commissioner Schultz,
Aye.
Chairman Stratman.
Aye. Aye, I'm sorry. Okay, and then to, and Commissioner Castillo's concerns, what I would like to say, the condition be that we put on this, just to hear it through, would be that the option of potential punitive measures for failure to comply with applicable codes. That would be our recommendation to the board. The option of potential punitive measures for failure to comply with the applicable codes.
What's the front part of that?
The rest of the,
So,
the
a-
motion
appro-
would be
so the
application
motion to
PZC,
approve the
right.
variance
right,
with these conditions.
exactly.
Got it, thank you.
Can I add also the
Please.
fact that I think one of the commissioners, excuse me, mentioned having confirmation by our Public Works Department of the televising prior to,
Yes.
you mentioned that before going to the village board. I don't know if you want to add that as a condition.
Well, that was in the staff report, but I'll put
Right.
that as a condition as well.
It is in the staff report from our side, but if you want to add it to your,
I agree, because it's that condition that says that if it doesn't meet,
if it doesn't meet.
then the stairs have to be,
Then you have to
whatever that means.
figure out
Torn
something
out,
else.
Yep.
reduced, whatever.
Okay, got it. Okay. Okay, other comments for deliberation before we, all right,
Can I just,
Go ahead, Hildy.
I guess, there's a lot that's been discussed here tonight, but just for my clarification, we were really only asked to look at the variance for the steps, correct?
That was going to be
Okay,
one of my
so
closing
that's-
comments.
that's,
Thank you.
I'm just, because I appreciate a lot of what was said, and I understand some of the concerns and things like that, but those are while very concerning to the residents, and, you know, I feel for them, they are not germane to what our purpose is here tonight.
Right.
You know, I guess, you know, I keep going back to what are the options, you know? They remove the stairs, they have no stair, I mean, I don't know. The neighbor it directly impacts seems to have no problem with it. But it's really up to, you know, some of the other things that were brought up. The village is gonna have to approve all those things. They look at all of this, there'll be final reviews of a lot of these items. Obviously, they approved the driveways. The telephone pole is next to the driveway, but not on the driveway, so you know, a lot of different issues. All we're here to really talk about are the stairs.
Right.
Okay,
So what I was also gonna add, if allowed, was,
sure.
for the manner in which staff looks at these variations. When staff looks at the variation, we are bound to test each variation based on the standards present in our ordinance and not outside extra comments that come in.
Extraneous issues.
Extraneous comments, thank you. That is for the commission to consider and put those together in the transcript or the streaming video, as in our case is. Put that all together with our findings, your findings, and transmit that to the village board to make the recommendation. So what you're being asked to look at tonight is whether the stairs will have a negative impact on the property or on neighboring properties. And if you find that it does not have any negative impact on, it does have impact, but any negative impact on the neighboring properties, judging by the fact that the neighboring property owner has not objected to the fact that the stairs are being constructed, then you take that into consideration. As to whether the property, these stairs will have a negative impact on the property itself, that comes down to the issue of the public storm sewer on which the steps are constructed. And that is something that we will determine before we go to the village board through the televising of the storm sewer. So essentially, based on those two, if you find that this is something that does not have any negative impact, then you can make your decision to vote for or against, to make a recommendation to vote for or against.
But again, clarification, that the televising of the sewer is
Yes.
by
The owner, yes.
cost
At
borne
the
by
cost
the
of
owner.
the owner, yes. They have agreed to that, but
All right.
that is something that we had talked about with them prior to this hearing.
Okay.
Okay. Are we ready?
Yeah, I might stop you when you're reading.
All right. Says, so I would entertain a motion on application PZC 2025-03 to receive into the public record the staff review of compliance of this application with the zoning standards as presented by staff, to receive the testimony presented by the applicants, by members of the public, by the PZC members, and by village staff at tonight's public hearing, and make these standards and testimony a part of the official record for the application and findings of the PZC, and the option of potential punitive measures for failure to comply with the applicable codes, and also the confirmation from our Public Works on the approval of the storm sewer. And, flipping, to recommend the village board approve the application for a variation to allow for the construction of an outside stairway within the front and side yard of the property within the R5 single-family residential district.
Yeah, for me, the operative word that you threw in there was the option of a fine as opposed to it will be.
Yes.
So, yeah,
Yeah.
I'm good with that.
Okay.
A quick question before we do that. Sarosh, if I understand the petitioner, you have provided an occupancy permit already?
Hey, I want to clarify, it's a temporary occupancy. It is not a final certificate of
Thank you.
occupancy. It is temporary
Good.
pending the resolution of this very issue.
Got it, thank you.
All right. So, motion by
Yeah,
Antonio?
yes.
Okay.
Second.
Okay, call roll, please, Colleen.
Commissioner Castillo,
Aye.
Commissioner Giannini,
Aye.
Commissioner Gloaz,
Aye.
Commissioner Kovacevic,
Aye.
Commissioner Morrison,
Aye.
Commissioner Schultz,
Aye.
Chairman Stratman.
Aye. And I think the vote reflects the comments that were made this evening by the co-chair, Mr. Castillo, that when presented with requests for variances, we tend to be very favorable in the ruling. What you heard from us this evening was the fact that we're being asked this question after the fact, and that's what our apprehensions are. So the main thing is the communication going forward, and not so much to, for your concern, but also for people, because as said, these are televised, so other people in the village are hearing this, that we want the message going out to the village at large, that's what we want. We want to have the communication ahead of time, so we don't have to deal with this after the fact, okay? But this has been unanimously recommended by this commission, going to the village board with these conditions attached, so they get resolved before, then they can go to the village board.
We will work with the property owner to get the issue resolved before transmitting it to the village board.
Okay? All right, thank you. The next on our item is staff report.
Yeah, we've actually got your name. It's signing in case we miss your name. Bob, don't worry, we've got your name. Don't worry, we're good.
He wants to be official.
That's good. But thank you for signing in. You want to start? Yeah, go ahead. Staff report, what's coming up next month? You know,
The guy on Lake Street, right? Upcoming. The Lake Street variation. His porch.
Oh, yes. We have one variation that's currently in line to come to you at the May meeting. We're also working on some text amendments as requested by residents and trustees of the village board for us to look at some items to maybe amend the codes to make it more favorable and easier for residents to get their permits and whatever they want to do on their residential properties. So that'll come to you in May.
All right, thanks,
Anything
George.
else?
Speaking of update, what happened with our spa that was going in on Rand?
So that item has actually been, that project has been terminated. The applicant initially, after coming to you, I'll just continue, I guess you can hear me. That item, after it came to you, they began the work with the demolition of the old animal clinic on the property, and then winter came, so they buttoned up the property. In the meantime, the owner realized that financially it was not going to be feasible for her, and so she initially considered reviving the project in spring of this year, but that never happened, and then so she notified us that she was terminating the project. She will continue to operate out of her present location at Sandy Point Business Center, and we'll just continue there and then hope to sell the property at some point in time.
But
So-
she took ownership of the property.
She took ownership of the property. So in turn, what we've asked her to do is, once the growing season starts again, is to seed or sod the property so that it is stabilized once more.
All right, okay.
Any other items you would like to know?
Is it correct that the Fritzl's property was sold again to the owner of Lagos?
Yes, Fritzl's was sold about a month ago, or more, to the owner of Lagos, a private LLC, but with Mr. Fabio Viviani of Lago Lake Zurich as the primary partner. They are in for permits. We are resolving issues of the parking lot and the building.
say, parking
Yeah.
should be looked at very
Yeah.
closely.
So we are resolving that with them right now. The parking lot surface itself actually is more of an issue too. But they want to have an Asian-themed restaurant in there that will be run by the group that Mr. Viviani is a part of.
Any updates on Block A?
So Block A came before the village board a couple of weeks ago, where the Huron group, a father and son team, had proposed to the village to just buy out the property. This was a process which the village had not employed in the past, because in the past we usually looked at concepts first and then went into some sort of sales agreement. But based on the sentiment of the village trustees, the village was amenable to selling the property with some conditions that the developer now come back through the plan unit development process to develop Block A. So following the meeting we had 2 weeks ago, or a week and a half ago, actually, we've had a meeting with them. They've shown us their concept, and we are now working out the details, and will likely bring it to you either in May or June. Actually, more like June, because we will need to have them prepare all of their exhibits to us.
Are they gonna buy it regardless?
No, it's under contract, so I think there is a clause that says, I guess they will buy it outright. Yes, they will own the property outright, but they're gonna go through their due diligence right now. It's a 90-day due diligence period for them to get their entitlements. And within that period, they will have to work out meeting the requirements of the village for development of that property through the plan unit development process.
Do they have to come to us no matter what it is they wanna put there?
Yes,
Or
yes, that was one
no
of,
matter?
no matter, that was one of the conditions placed in the sales agreement. But barring whether they had to or not, based on the size of the property and what people want to put in there, it typically has gone into the plan development process, because in order to make it feasible and worth the while of a developer, they do want to put in something that requires some zoning relief, and that is why these projects come to you. So you will see it, for sure.
Okay, good.
What they're looking at is townhomes, a combination of townhomes and a retail service component, like a restaurant banquet facility type building.
Like, that'd be nice.
Mhm.
Right. Anything else? Anyone? Then it is 8:30, so I'd entertain a motion to adjourn. So moved was here. and- Yeah.
Yeah.
Commissioner Castillo,
Oh, aye.
Commissioner Giannini,
Aye.
Commissioner Gloaz,
Aye.
Commissioner Kovacevic,
Aye.
Commissioner Morrison,
Aye.
Commissioner Schultz,
Aye.
Chairman Stratman.
Aye. We are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much, and good night.